Hi, I'm Bill Smolsky.
And I'm Courtney Graves. Welcome to the MacIver Report. This week we're going to be talking about a few events that happened on campus first.
Now, the first one was held by Dr. Anath through the Center for Research and the Wisconsin Economy, better known as CROWE, this past Tuesday. He brought Rupa Subramanya, a journalist from Canada, to talk about debanking. And here's a short video we produced about that event.
My name is Anant. I'm a professor of economics at UW-Madison. I'm also the director of the Center for Research on the Wisconsin Economy. One of the things we do over at CROWE, which is a center located in the Department of Economics, is to try to add to viewpoint diversity on campus. Today we brought in Rupa from Canada to talk about debanking, which is an issue that just not a lot of people know a whole lot about. And so she was one of the pioneers in researching debanking. And so that's why I thought it'd be important to bring her here and shed light on an important issue.
What would you do if your bank account vanished tomorrow? If your answer is, well, that would never happen to me, well, that's exactly what everyone I interviewed thought too.
There are folks on the left, on the right who have been debanked. It's a weaponization of basically the financial system that in a way that can attack everyday citizens. And to me, that was eye-opening.
It's not just conservatives. Christian charities have been debanked. Muslim Americans get tagged as high risk. It's actually a very inclusive discrimination when you think about it. It cuts across ideology and faith. So you don't need to jail people if you can cut off their debit card. You don't need to censor speech if you can block the donations that fund it. You don't need to outlaw opposition if you can make living as an opponent impossible. If we accept that governments or corporations can decide who gets to bank, we've essentially accepted conditional citizenship, rights that exist only when we behave. We talk a lot about free speech. I've written quite extensively about free speech. In a cashless world, financial freedom is, I think, the next civil right.
All right, so that was just a broad overview, and obviously Rupa covered a lot of ground in her presentation. So, Courtney, what stood out for you?
Yeah, as an economics student, honestly, debanking is not a topic that I've really explored a lot. I feel like it's not a topic that's really made its way into the main political discourse, but I thought it was really interesting that she talked about how it really affects everybody, from Christians to Muslims to liberals to even now in the United States, Melania Trump. So it's definitely an issue that transcends political boundaries and maybe something we should all care about.
Yeah, as she said, nobody ever worries about debanking until they wake up and they can't access their bank account.
Right.
I thought it was very interesting. I didn't put it in the video, but how she was there during the truckers' protest in Ottawa, and she actually lives in that neighborhood where the protest happens. And so she thought, I'm just going to walk around the block and see what's going on. And the police said, no, you go back to your home. You are not allowed out on the sidewalk. So definitely stood out for me. All right, so moving right into the second event. Now, this one was held by YAF on Wednesday, and I wasn't at this one. You were.
Yeah.
So you're going to fill us in on all the details.
For sure. So we invited Dan McLaughlin on Wednesday night. And for those of you who don't know, he's a senior writer at National Review, and he really focuses on the conservative movement, institutions, norms, things like that. So he came and talked to our group to just talk about how the right should fight going forward and how we as conservatives can have a stronger movement, especially when my generation is in charge of it. So it was a really interesting discussion, and I'll just say one thing that stood out to me about this topic was he made the point that conservatives should never fight how the left does. Because what the left likes to do is they like to burn everything down, all the institutions, all the norms, to get change as rapidly as they possibly can. But we as conservatives, we're fundamentally different. We actually care about traditions, we care about norms, and we care about our institutions, and that's how we should fight moving forward. So I thought that was a really good topic and also a really good message for our group to hear.
So to convince people with compelling arguments.
Yes.
And you actually had a great turnout for that event.
We had an amazing turnout, 78 people. So we originally booked a room that had only about, I'd say, 35 seats, and there were so many people in the room, even people standing, that we had to move down the hallway to a bigger lecture hall. So, 78 students, really great turnout, really high energy. I think it went well.
All right, so what do you think the draw was this time?
I have no idea. We didn't even have free food. So I guess people were just really excited to hear about the future of the conservative movement.
Oh, those young conservatives on campus have really, shot themselves in the foot, because this has been a long-standing question, if food is actually a draw or not.
I'm increasingly believing that it's not.
Well, hopefully there'll still be some food at other events. Including, Anath always has the nacho bar
Yep,
for people that
exactly.
go to the CROWE events. All right, so before we move to the next topic, I just want to let everyone know that MacIver, now we've covered YAF events before. We covered, and we probably will again, the last one we covered was a couple weeks ago, the Diversity on Campus Thoughts, or the Diversity of Thought on Campus panel. And at the time, we posted a short video about the events, but we've gotten a couple people reaching out wanting the whole thing. So you'll find the whole thing now on the MacIver Institute's YouTube channel and on our website, MacIverInstitute.com. And speaking of that panel, Courtney, your group is taking some heat from the liberal media over it.
We shockingly are. I thought ideological diversity would be a bipartisan issue, but then again, it's UW-Madison.
I've got the article from the Daily Cardinal right here, so I'm going to read off a couple passages from this excerpt so you can let us know what your thoughts are. So the title is "Conservatives Say They're Silenced at UW-Madison. What they really want is immunity from criticism. Free speech at UW isn't under attack. It's being weaponized." So first excerpt. "At the end of the day, calls for ideological diversity or free speech are nothing more than an attempt to use conservatism as an escape from accountability and frame the proponents of those views as victims. Conservative groups want the ability to control the kinds of dialogue present on campus, not a truly open one."
Yeah.
So what do you think about that, Courtney?
I do not think that is true whatsoever. And I also would just like to say I think it's interesting that when they wrote this, they did not reach out to me, the current chair of College Republicans and the current chair of YAF. They actually used a pre-made quote from a different person who was chair a couple years ago because they knew that I would have something scathing to say about this. So obviously, I don't think it's just a ploy for us to get our views put to the top of the university's ideals. I mean, right now, we have the opposite in effect, where liberals control the university. Admin is completely overrun by liberal administrators. Professors are overwhelmingly liberal, 99.3%. We only have 3 conservative professors on campus who are actually willing to be outspoken about their views. So it doesn't really make sense to say, oh, well, conservatives are just trying to play the victim here. We don't have a voice on campus right now. It's not that we want to play the victim. Trust me, I wish that we did have equal footing. It's that we currently don't, and we're getting our events suppressed. We're getting our views suppressed. Conservative students don't feel comfortable on campus, and when this is the climate around us, of course we want to talk about it. And the fact that the Daily Cardinal felt that they had to write an entire article just on the fact that, not even that we did anything about it, but just that we wanted to talk about it, it's really baffling to me.
That's right. They really didn't cover any of the content from that panel.
No, because it would very successfully refute everything they said in this.
Well, and they can't even, ask you for comment. They need a straw man quote from the archives to knock down. All right, here's your next excerpt. A survey run by the UW system president revealed only 10% of students claimed they faced social consequences for engaging in political dialogue, with the actual implications of these consequences not being reported.
Yeah, so this was the one that I thought was really interesting. So that 10% statistic is the only number that they cite in this entire article as to say why ideological diversity is not a problem on campus. And I would just like to cite some other numbers and statistics to prove why that 10%, that's very obscure and very vague, by the way, doesn't really mean anything. UW-Madison still ranks in the triple digits out of all colleges and universities on FIRE's free speech ranking. We also rank in the bottom 25 of all colleges and universities, hundreds upon hundreds, by the way, for how all students feel about their comfortability of expressing political and controversial opinions. Moreover, 33% of Democrats on campus think that universities' administrators should ban the expression of views that they feel cause harm. This is compared to only 9% of Republican students. And also, these statistics are made by the UW system, so very reputable source. And 67% of Republicans say that they don't feel comfortable expressing their views on transgenderism, and 55% of Republicans also say that they don't feel comfortable expressing their views on abortion on campus. Both of the figures for liberal students on campus are significantly lower than this.
So we don't know exactly where they got the 10% from?
No, and they also don't cite where the 10% comes from. And so to say, well, only 10% of people say that they face social repercussions on campus due to, the political climate. Well, okay, our campus is only 15% conservative students, so for all we know, all 10% of the student body that they, interviewed could be conservatives, and at that point, it could be most of the conservatives they interviewed. So that also just doesn't make a lot of sense to cite that as your one statistic, especially when there's so many other facts that, prove this to be not true.
So for anyone that wonders where we got our numbers from, it was the University of Wisconsin system free speech survey a couple years ago. We did a whole story about it at the MacIver Institute. It was big news around the state. So, and we've got the link in the comment in the description below, so you can check our sources.
Exactly.
Oh, and then we got one more excerpt that I want to throw at you. So, groups of all political stripes routinely hold campus events, invite speakers to campus, and debate openly. All evidence that UW-Madison is a far cry from the ideological echo chamber it's being framed as.
Yeah, that one really got me. I mean, when you have 99.3% of faculty donations going to Democrats, I don't know how you can argue that we're not an ideological echo chamber. And as I've talked about in our prior podcasts, and as I talked about in the panel, if you are a conservative student at UW-Madison, you are constantly getting articles, research papers, different discussions thrown at you about how Republicans and conservatives have immoral values, or how we support undemocratic ideals, or how we support the rise of fascism and all these other things. And when these are the sentiments that your professors are echoing, how can you not say that's an echo chamber? And if you've ever attended any sort of political science discussion or any other humanities discussion on campus, you will notice that the conversations don't go, oh, well, I disagree with you because of this. They go, oh, I'm just going to piggyback off what you said. I totally agree, because people are scared of the debate at UW-Madison, and liberal students, they don't want their views challenged, and conservative students are scared to actually say their views. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense on that one. And also to the events thing, yes, we do hold events. I hold events every week between YAF and College Republicans because it's what I love to do. It's what I care about. But the university does not like that we do this, and they have actively tried to stop us in the past. When we hosted Michael Knowles in the spring of 2024, the university tried to charge us a $4,000 security fee to a registered student organization who has no money in order to stop Michael Knowles from coming to our campus, because they were worried that liberal protesters would cause a bunch of damage to Memorial Union, just as they did when Matt Walsh visited. So when you have administrators actively trying to shut down your events and saying, we don't want these controversial speakers on campus, I don't know how you can say that isn't an echo chamber, and that is totally fair and balanced. And I would also like to say, with the UW system report, also 17% of liberal students in the UW system feel that you should try to disrupt speaker events that you find offensive by making noise during the event so that the speaker cannot talk. 17%. That is not an insignificant number. And I will say, anytime we have ever hosted a big speaker on an even semi-controversial political topic, we have always had protesters. We have always had people interrupt the speech. And that is not okay. That's not free speech. That's not ideological diversity. That is 100% suppression.
And how many of their events have you guys picketed?
0.
Yeah. Imagine
0.
that. Well, that's because you don't resort to the tactics of the left, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go off script a little bit here, but in terms of like increase in diversity of thought on campus, you're also worked the conservative newspaper or magazine, the Federalist.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, and you guys are getting some national attention right now. So, but first, tell us about the magazine.
Yeah, so about a year ago, we started a new conservative newspaper on campus. We had never had one before, so we have the Daily Cardinal and the Badger Herald right now. They've been around for decades, but they are both very, very liberal. The Badger Herald used to be the conservative newspaper, and they slowly shifted left over the time to now where they're even further left than Daily Cardinal.
I think some alums would be surprised to know that. So
yes, for sure. So very interesting. And we saw a void and felt like, okay, we need a conservative publication out there so that conservative students actually have a place to express their views, but also so we can cover the stories that Badger Herald and Daily Cardinal refuse to, or don't find interesting because they don't see a problem with it due to their biases. So, yep, we started that out like a year ago. It's been going super well. We have actual real print editions going out. Also controversy with that because we found out that the UW system library employees were throwing our entire stacks of newspapers away so no one would be able to read them. So that's a little interesting.
And you know, I just want to point out that the fact that they know shows that there are conservatives everywhere that just keep their heads down.
Exactly. But yeah, so our editor-in-chief, Ben Rothove, wrote an article, I think it was like a month or two ago, about Percival Matthews, who used to be head of DEI, and now it's sort of transitioned post-DEI into this program on inclusion and community and whatnot that is actually supposed to spearhead the efforts to increase ideological diversity on campus. So this person, Percival Matthews, who, is an advisor to the chancellor and runs this new program, has said some very interesting things online in the past. And that includes saying, I don't know how people could vote for Donald Trump is a racist, and that mathematics is a violence against black students. So, Ben wrote an article about this in the Madison Federalist, and we just found out today that it got picked up by Fox News. So, it seems like Madison Federalist is going really well and gaining some traction.
Yeah, just 1 year in publication and already making waves. That's great. All right, so moving beyond the university now, a story that MacIver covered a lot last week, K-12 grooming. We talked about this how the Capital Times broke this scandal a couple weeks ago about sexual grooming throughout the Wisconsin public school system. And last week, the Assembly held a hearing on this, and here's the video report we ran about that. After news broke that 200 public school teachers in Wisconsin had been investigated for sexual misconduct over just a 5-year period, state lawmakers wanted answers.
The safety, health, and welfare of our children, both in school and outside the classroom, should be a top priority for all of us.
They held an informational hearing on Thursday.
Grooming is a real problem. It is one that we are seeing more and more.
Lawmakers learned that when a teacher crosses the line with a student, there are 3 ways to address it. 1, law enforcement can treat it as a crime. 2, the school can determine if the teacher violated their contract and can be fired. And 3, the Department of Public Instruction can determine if the teacher violated the state's immoral conduct law and revoke their teaching license. Now, there are a lot of problems with this arrangement. First, no one actually knows how to define sexual grooming. There is no state law against it. And no one seems to know exactly when forming an emotional connection with a student becomes sexual grooming, especially when nothing sexual is ever brought up.
When we see grooming, we do something about it. The challenge is we're interpreting that as a moral issue inside of the immoral conduct statute. We believe we're right. We also believe that there is a legitimate pathway to somebody who believes that we're wrong about a moral judgment to challenging our order and dragging a case through a court. We've been down that path in some instances where we've had educators who believed that what they were doing was normal and totally reasonable, and we disagreed, and we're concerned that that is a potential leaky spot in our ability to go after all cases.
Secondly, the schools aren't always eager to fire the teachers over these incidents in the first place.
Obviously, the school district had limited information, and they were very concerned on when they could bring their teacher back to work.
Finally, DPI does not seem eager to address any of these problems on its own. Many of the problems that came up could easily be addressed internally through new administrative rules, professional development, reporting processes, or simply through policy memos that spell out exactly what sexual grooming means in the classroom. Jill Underly is the state superintendent, and she is in charge of DPI, and all of those are tools that she could use to address these long-standing problems. Had Underly actually appeared at the hearing, she could have explained why she hasn't done any of that. Even Democrats were not happy about her absence.
Finally, I'm disappointed that Dr. Underly is not here today. She should be here. I've conveyed that to her team twice in the last week. Disappointed that she's not.
And on the Capitol steps, Congressman Tom Tiffany also had some thoughts about Underly's priorities.
Instead of answering questions or working with the legislature to fix these problems, Jill Underly is skipping town to receive an award at Indiana University. Hiding from accountability while collecting an award in another state is the perfect summary of her leadership at DPI.
Underly will have one more chance to explain herself soon. The Senate is inviting her to another informational hearing on Tuesday, November 4th. For the MacIver Institute, I'm Bill Osmolsky. All right, so leading up to that hearing, MacIver, we released a couple articles that were just compilations of stories that we've done over the years about sexual grooming in the public schools. And I had to watch, the first one I had to watch for years was about the erotic poetry in the middle schools. I made Courtney watch it. If we had an HR department, I'd probably be talking about it right now. But Courtney, I know it's at you in a shock, so share your thoughts about how that video stood out to you.
Yeah, I would have to say, even though we don't have a statute defining what grooming is, that was absolutely grooming. It was very disturbing to see 13 to 14-year-olds get up on stage in front of all of their fellow classmates and say very disturbing and very graphic things, and then just see their teacher in the corner who's, probably 40 years old cheering them on. So, not great.
Yeah, applauding and encouraging.
Yep.
So that was by far the most shocking one, but there were other ones too, so you might want to check out that story. All right, so moving on to the Obamacare shutdown, or I'm calling it the Obamacare shutdown, the federal government shutdown. We need to talk about this because, first of all, the left is just going all out on these false narratives about what's going on. But also, we've been writing a lot about, one of the key issues. Democrats say the reason for the shutdown is Republicans won't extend the Obamacare premium tax credits. And so health premiums are going to skyrocket, something like 800% according to them. Now, for the record, when I say we, I mean Courtney's written a lot about this. So real quick, Courtney, just walk us through this narrative and, what your research actually shows.
For sure. So what Democrats are saying is that with the expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits, you're going to see insurance premiums going up by over 75% is the frequently cited statistic. And I will say that's pretty misleading. So one really important thing about enhanced premium tax credits is that this money goes directly to the pockets of big insurance companies. So multi-billion-dollar companies are receiving these subsidies directly from the government. So it creates a really big incentive problem where insurance companies don't really feel a pressure to lower their prices anymore and actually have them at market value that people can afford. So Democrats aren't really factoring in this free market problem that the enhanced premium tax credits have created, and they've potentially actually just pushed health insurance premiums up a lot over time. Also with that, so there are some different statistics on how enhanced premium tax credits have changed people's out-of-pocket premiums. And it really depends on your income level. So if you are around 100 to 150% of the federal poverty line prior to enhanced premium tax credits, you'd have to put about 2% of your income towards your insurance premium. But with these COVID-era tax credits, it went all the way down to 0%. If you're between 100% and 150% of the federal poverty line, you don't have to pay anything.
Well, that's great. So you could say this will raise your health insurance premiums by infinity percent.
Right, exactly. But that's only a very small subset of the population, which is what Democrats aren't really accounting for. So generally what the enhanced premium tax credits have done is there used to be a 9.78% cap on the proportion of your income that you could actually put towards health insurance premiums if you qualified for them and were on the market exchange. And what the premium tax credits did, the enhanced ones, is they brought down to 8.5%. So going from 9.78% to 8.5% is not that big of a jump, but it is still obviously a lot of money from the federal government.
Yeah, so let's talk real quick about Tony Evers' map or chart here.
Yeah.
Where I really want to say they've been throwing out the number like 800%.
Yep.
And in this graphic, I'll throw it up on the screen. He's got a 60-year-old couple making $85,000 a year on a silver plan. This is how much their health insurance costs annually will go up on the exchange. And they show like La Crosse and Milwaukee, $25,000 a year. And I think, Barron, it's the highest, $33,000. So, I'm going through the numbers in my head. It's like, okay, wait a minute. If I'm making $85,000 a year and I'm going to have, my costs are going to go up $33,000 a year. That seems a lot more than just 9.5% of my income.
It sure does.
So there's something going on here.
There's something amiss here. Something's not quite right in this narrative. I think what they may be doing is combining some of the most extreme numbers that they can possibly find in the data. So like I was saying, the enhanced premium tax credits work on a sliding scale. So depending on where you are as a percentage of the federal poverty line, then maybe you have to pay a slightly different proportion of your income. And we were actually looking at the chart for the federal poverty line, and it looks like the specific income level that they stated in this graphic right here is directly above the 400% poverty line, which was the old cutoff for where the tax credits used to end.
So before COVID, you only qualified for these massive subsidized healthcare plans if you made up to 400%, 4 times the federal poverty line.
Yep.
During COVID, they increased that to 500%. So that 60-year-old couple making $84,658 a year, they're $58 above that 400% limit. So that suddenly their care is no longer subsidized.
Right. But even though it's no longer subsidized, it still wouldn't go up that much. I mean, it doesn't make sense because if you look at the prices of health insurance premiums on the silver benchmark healthcare premium plans that are on the market exchange, they're only about $6,000 to $8,000. So how could it go up $30,000? I don't know.
Well, and you know, this has been very enlightening to me in that this show, you know, so conservatives don't like Obamacare. Usually can't really articulate why. You know, sometimes they might say it doesn't work. This is the example of how it doesn't work. The premise of Obamacare was to lower the cost of healthcare. It didn't. The cost of healthcare has just exploded in those 15 years. The government has just masked it by pouring literally trillions of dollars into the insurance industry in exchange for subsidizing these plans.
Yeah, and actually in just the few years following the full implementation of the ACA, so from 2014 to 2017, health insurance premiums for most people doubled. So that just goes to show it did not lower healthcare prices at all.
You know, and something else we've talked about on this podcast, the problem with price controls and how, like, the government, when they're trying to protect taxpayers, will put price controls in place on how high industries can charge for a product or a service, and what that does is that creates that it just becomes a new price for the whole industry. This is interesting because there are no price controls. They've just told the insurance companies, hey, you just can't increase your premiums by more than 14% a year without permission.
Right.
So they're you know, the insurance companies are raking in trillions of dollars in these subsidies with really no incentive to actually lower costs. So they've gotten completely out of control, and it's gotten so bad that an additional subsidy program that's only been around for 5 years, if it goes away, suddenly people are going to be slammed, supposedly, with tens of thousands of dollars more in premiums a year. So I just think that this is a real...
Seems like a very broken system.
Yes, and it really is an indictment of Obamacare. And hopefully that helps you understand a little bit more of why it's such a terrible situation. All right, so if you want to, you know, Courtney has written about this. I did do a MacIver News Minute on this, so it's on the website too. You can find all that at MacIverInstitute.com. And you know what? That's where I'm going to cut off this podcast. So thank you very much for sticking with us until the end. For the MacIver Institute, I'm Bill Osmolsky.
And I'm Courtney Graves. See you next time.